I'm Elle, and this past Thanksgiving is one I'll never forget. My family came up with a lie to keep me from coming to dinner. But I wasn't the only one left out. I was the one they left behind. They sat around the table, laughing, celebrating, acting as if I didn't exist. Why? Because I'm just an AC tech. But here's the kicker. I was the one paying for my sister's college tuition, the same sister who couldn't even acknowledge me. The same family who took my money but couldn't bear to have me at their table. So, I made a decision. A decision that would change everything. The neon sign of my HVAC shop flickered in the twilight as I locked up for the night. The cold Seattle air bit through my jacket, but there was warmth in my chest. Thanksgiving was only a few days away, and for once, I didn't have to worry about work orders or emergency repairs. I'd set everything in place, scheduled jobs, prepared bonuses for my crew, even picked out a nice bottle of wine to bring to dinner. I climbed into my truck, and my phone rang. My mom's name lit up the screen, and I smiled, expecting her usual pre-holiday call about which pie I should bring, pecan or pumpkin. But when I picked up, the tone in her voice immediately sent a chill down my spine. "Elle, honey, I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving," she said, her voice off. Mom always had a certain sharpness to her voice, a clipped efficiency, but now she sounded hesitant, as if she was about to say something I wouldn't like. "Sure, what's up?" I replied, shifting the truck into drive. There was a long pause, just enough to make my stomach tighten. "We think it would be best if you skip dinner this year." I nearly swerved into the next lane. "Wait, what?" My grip on the wheel tightened. "What do you mean, skip dinner? We always do Thanksgiving together." Mom let out a soft sigh, the kind she used when she was about to feed me some well-rehearsed nonsense. "Well, it's just that this year we're keeping things a little more formal. Serafina's boyfriend is bringing his parents, and we thought it might be better if it was just close family." I scoffed. "I am close family, Mom." "Of course you are, sweetheart," she said quickly, her voice dripping with forced sincerity. "It's just, you know how these professional families can be. It's important for Serafina to make a good impression." And there it was, the real message, hitting me like a gut punch. My job, my life, it wasn't up to their standards. "So what, Mom? Because I don't wear a suit and tie, I'm not good enough to sit at the table?" My voice rose, anger bubbling beneath my skin. "Don't make this about you." I let out a humorless laugh. "Oh, I see. So it's not about me. It's just about making sure Serafina isn't embarrassed by her lowly sister, right?" She didn't respond. That silence was enough. "I can't believe this," I muttered. "Elle, honey, it's just one dinner. We'll make it up to you. Maybe a family brunch next weekend," she offered, as if that would soften the blow. I hung up. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, my breathing shallow. One dinner. One dinner. After years of helping Serafina, paying for her tuition, making sure she never had to worry about a damn thing. And now, I wasn't good enough to be in the same room as her boyfriend's family. As I sat in the stillness of my truck, my phone buzzed again. A text from my cousin Genevieve. "I need to tell you something. It's about Thanksgiving." I hesitated before opening the message. I overheard Mom and Serafina talking the other day. Serafina told her she didn't want you there because she was afraid it would make her look bad in front of Dorian's parents. She said, and I quote, "I don't want them to think we come from a working-class background." I read the message twice, my stomach sinking. My own sister, the same one whose textbooks, tuition, and rent I'd been covering for years, was ashamed of me, ashamed of the work I did, ashamed of the life I built with my own hands. I wanted to throw my phone against the dashboard, but I just sat there gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The way she never invited me to her college events, the way she changed the subject when her friends asked what I did for a living, the way she never introduced me to her boyfriend, even though they'd Been together for nearly a year. I had ignored it, convinced myself I was being paranoid. But this was undeniable. Thanksgiving Day arrived, and for the first time in my life, I spent it alone. I tried to distract myself, went for a long drive, stopped at a diner for coffee, even called a few friends, but nothing dulled the ache in my chest. That evening, against my better judgment, I checked social media. There they were, smiling family photos, the perfectly set dinner table. Serafina in a sleek dress, beaming next to Dorian, his parents looking equally polished. And I wasn't anywhere in sight. That was the moment something in me shifted. If I wasn't good enough to sit at their table, then my money wasn't good enough to pay for Serafina's tuition. So, I made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. It wasn't relief exactly, more like clarity. The kind that only comes when you finally stop making excuses for people who don't deserve them. I made my coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out my laptop. Logging into the university's payment portal had become second nature to me over the years. I knew the password to Serafina's account better than I knew my own streaming. Login, due date, 2 weeks, balance, $21,500. I stared at the number, my fingers hovering over the trackpad. I had covered every single semester since she started law school, never once hesitating. But this time, my cursor moved to remove the payment method. A small pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to remove this account as a payer? This action cannot be undone. I clicked yes without a second thought. The second my laptop snapped shut, my phone buzzed on the table. My mom's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. Then it rang again and again. By the fourth call, I sighed and picked up, already bracing myself. "Elle," Mom's voice was sharp, exasperated. "What are you doing?" I took a slow sip of my coffee. "Good morning to you too, Mom." "Don't play games with me," she snapped. "Serafina just called, hysterical, saying you cut off her tuition payment. Tell me that's not true." "Oh, it's true," I said flatly. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. "Ella, how could you be so cruel?" "Cruel?" I laughed, a short, humorless sound. That's an interesting choice of words, considering she's the one who got me disinvited from Thanksgiving because she was embarrassed by me. She was just trying to make a good impression on Dorian's family, Mom argued, her tone shifting into that saccharine, guilt-tripping mode she always used when she wanted something from me. "You know how these things work. She's young. She doesn't think things through." "She's 24, Mom. She's old enough to know exactly what she's doing." Another pause, then the inevitable. "You promised you'd support her through school." "No," I corrected, my grip tightening on my mug. "I promised to help my sister, not someone who treats me like I'm disposable." She didn't mean it that way. She meant it exactly that way. Mom let out a frustrated sigh. "You're overreacting. Family makes sacrifices for each other. That's just what we do." I swallowed back a bitter laugh. Funny how family only applies when I'm the one giving. When it's my turn to expect a little basic respect, suddenly I'm asking for too much. "She needs this, Elle." "So did I muttered. Mom fell silent. For once, she didn't have an immediate comeback. No rehearsed lines about what's best for the family or how Serafina's future depended on me. I let the silence stretch before I spoke again, my voice steady. "I'm done." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then a sigh. "I mean it," I said. "I've spent years paying for her education, covering every expense, making sure she never had to worry about a damn thing, and the one time I needed her to just acknowledge me, she chose to erase me instead." Mom exhaled, exasperated. "You're being so dramatic." "I think we're done here," I said, ignoring the sharp sting in my chest. "Elle, wait!" I hung up. For a long moment, I just sat there, my pulse hammering against my ribs. I had done it. I had actually done it. I should have felt guilty. Maybe a part of me did. But it was so small, so buried under years of resentment, that I barely noticed it. Instead, I felt something else, a strange, unfamiliar kind of relief. The next few hours were eerily quiet. Too quiet. Then, one by one, the rest of them started calling. Dad was the first. "El, this is going too far." His deep voice rumbled through the phone. "You're punishing your own blood." Then Aunt Delilah. "I never thought you'd be so heartless." Uncle Larry. "It's just money, El. You make plenty. Don't be petty." Cousins, family, friends, even people I barely spoke to, all chiming in with their version of, "El, how could you?" It was almost impressive, really, how quickly they rallied behind Serafina, how easily they painted me as the villain. Not one of them had defended me when I was shut out of Thanksgiving. Not a single one had reached out to see how I was holding up. But the second Serafina lost her tuition payments, suddenly it was a crisis. I let their messages pile up, unread. Then, just before midnight, Mom called again. This time I picked up. "Let me guess," I said, my voice flat. "You've gathered the entire family and decided to stage an intervention." "El, this isn't funny," she snapped. "No," I agreed, "it's pathetic." Mom sucked in a breath. "How dare you? How dare I?" I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Where were all of you when I was working weekends, pulling overtime, making sure Serafina had everything she needed?" Silence. "Where were you when she pretended I didn't exist? When she hid me from her friends? When she made it clear that my life, my work, wasn't good enough for her?" Mom cleared her throat. "El, it's not like that." "It is like that," I snapped. "And let me be very clear, Mom. I'm done. Serafina is on her own." I hung up, and I meant every word. But Serafina? She wasn't done fighting. At first it was subtle, a lingering look from a longtime client, a hesitation in the voices of family friends when they spoke to me. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining things. Then one afternoon, as I finished a routine inspection for Mrs. Carter, someone who had been using my HVAC services for years, she gave me a pointed look. "I never thought you'd abandon your own sister like that, Ella," she said, her voice carrying that same judgmental edge I had come to recognize all too well. I froze, gripping the clipboard in my hands. "Excuse me?" She shook her head, sighing dramatically. "Family is supposed to take care of each other. I just didn't think you were the kind of person to turn your back on your own blood." There it was. I forced a tight smile. "Well, Mrs. Carter, I suppose that depends on which version of the story you've heard." She pursed her lips, but didn't say anything else, and I didn't give her the satisfaction of an explanation. Instead, I climbed into my truck, pulled out my phone, and opened social media. And there it was. Serafina had been busy. Her posts were vague but pointed, carefully worded to make her look like the victim without ever outright mentioning me. "Some people love money more than family. So disappointing. I always believed in supporting your siblings. Guess not everyone feels the same." The comments flooded in with sympathy. "I can't believe your own family would do this to you. You deserve better, babe. Stay strong. You've always been the sweetest. People like that will regret their choices one day." I scrolled through in disbelief. My stomach clenched when I saw familiar names. Distant relatives, family friends, people who hadn't so much as sent me a text after Thanksgiving, now rallying behind her like she was some helpless victim. And then, as if on cue, my phone started ringing. My aunt. Then my uncle. Then my mother. I silenced every call. I knew what they were going to say before they even opened their mouths. I had gone from being family to the villain in a matter of days, all because I refused to keep playing my role as the silent provider. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and started the engine. Enough. I was done letting her control the narrative. I didn't call ahead. I didn't warn her I was coming. I pulled up to Serafina's apartment, walked straight to her door, and knocked hard. It took a few moments, but then the door swung open. Serafina stood there, her phone still in her hand, eyes widening just slightly before she schooled her expression into something more composed. "Elle," she said smoothly, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" I pushed past her into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. She scoffed and closed the door behind me. "Oh, come in! Why don't you?" I turned to face her, my jaw tight. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" She blinked, feigning innocence. "I have no idea what you're talking about." I laughed coldly, pulling my phone from my pocket and holding up her latest post. "Oh, you don't? Because this looks a hell of a lot like you trying to paint me as some heartless monster." Her lips curled into a smirk. "I'm just telling the truth." I narrowed my eyes. "The truth? The truth is, I paid your tuition for years while you pretended I didn't exist. The truth is, I gave you everything, and you still acted like I was beneath you." She crossed her arms. "And now you're mad because people are finally seeing who you really are." I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "No, Serafina. You should be mad because this little game you're playing, it won't end the way you think it will." Her smirk faltered just slightly. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You think people are going to turn on me? I've built relationships. I have connections. Meanwhile, you... What? Fix air conditioners? Do you really think that makes you someone?" My jaw tightened, but I didn't let her words sink in. Not anymore. I simply smiled. "Go ahead, Serafina. Keep lying. Keep playing your little game. Keep manipulating people into thinking you're the victim." I turned toward the door, my hand on the handle. Then, just before leaving, I looked back at her. "Because when this all crashes down on you, I won't be there to save you." She was about to learn just how alone she really was. Her perfect little world was already starting to fall apart. I didn't have to do anything. Serafina had spent years building a life on borrowed resources. My money, my sacrifices, my silence. But now that I had cut her off, the foundation beneath her was crumbling. And the best part? She had no one to blame but herself. I closed my eyes, unsurprised. "And your parents?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "They're struggling financially. But of course they won't admit you were right," she said with a humorless chuckle. "They're still blaming you for everything, as if it's your fault Serafina burned every bridge she had." I nodded to myself, taking a sip of my coffee. Sounds about right. They'll never change. I could hear the fatigue in her voice. "I hope you know that." "I do," I murmured. "I think I've always known. I just wasn't ready to accept it before." She sighed. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing." A small smile tugged at the corner of my lips. "Thanks, Jen." "Anytime," she said. "And hey, Merry Christmas. You deserve a good one this year." The day before Christmas Eve, I found myself sitting at my desk, staring at the expansion plans for my business. It was growing faster than I had ever imagined. More clients, more employees, more opportunities. For so long, my success had felt like something I needed to downplay, something I had to apologize for. But not anymore. I wasn't ashamed of the life I had built. I was investing in myself now, not in people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. And that was the most freeing realization of all. That night, as I was winding down for bed, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen, a text from my mother. "Merry Christmas. We miss you. Let's talk." I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the screen. A year ago, I would have jumped at the chance. I would have let guilt guide me, second-guessed myself, and ultimately given in. But not this time. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, then deleted the message. I had nothing left to say. For the first time in my life, I chose myself, and it felt damn good. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with something to think about. Life has a way of teaching us hard lessons, especially when it comes to family. We're raised to believe that family is everything, that no matter what, we should always be there for them. But what happens when that loyalty is one-sided, when your sacrifices are expected but never appreciated? Walking away from a toxic family dynamic doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're finally choosing yourself. And that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of. If there's one thing I hope you take away from my story, it's this. Your worth is not measured by what you can do for others. You are not an ATM. You are not a stepping stone. You deserve respect, even from the people who share your blood. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you ever walked away from a situation that was draining you? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you feel seen, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If you didn't like it, tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Trust me, we have plenty more to tell. Thanks for watching, and remember, choosing yourself is never the wrong choice. See you in the next one.